Okay.
We'll start with here. I'm Dale Stein, Chair.
Greg Albrecht.
Dave,
Dave Brass, voting member.
Erica,
Erica Goodman, voting member.
turn it over to you. Bethany,
Okay, I'm Bethany Bistu, Executive Director of the State Soil and Water Conservation Committee.
Brian Steinmuller, Assistant Director for the Division of Land and Water Resources at Ag and Markets.
Melissa Gordon, Administrative Assistant.
PJ Emmerich, Region 2 AEA.
Tyler Knapp, Program Analyst.
Scott Fickbaum, the Region 3 AEA.
Good morning, Ryan Cunningham, Region 4 AEA.
Tim Sheldon, Excelsior Fellow here at Ag and Markets.
Victor Giacomo, Region 1 AEA.
Good morning, Caitlin Stewart, President, New York State Conservation District Employees Association.
Ben Luskin, Region 5 AEA.
Tim Clark, Engineer for State Committee.
All right, we'll go. I do see Darren has joined. Darren, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yep, Darren Hickling, voting member.
Thank you. So now we'll do a quick roll call of the advisory members that have joined us on through the WebEx. So is there anyone here from Ag and Markets? Thank you. Cornell Cooperative Extension. I see you there, Dan, but your audio's not coming through.
As always, it helps if you unmute. Good morning, Dan Welch, Cornell Cooperative Extension, Executive Director for Cooperative Extension in Cayuga County.
Good morning. How about Cornell Cows? Department of Environmental Conservation, DEC.
William Capola here, Environmental Program Specialist in DEC.
I'm sorry, can you say your name again? I didn't quite hear you.
Yep, it's William Capola.
Hi, Bethany. Sarah Latessa's on also. William's going to be, he's new, just started last week or week before, and he's going to be helping us out with the CAFO program. So
Great.
Yep.
Thank you for joining. Department of Health.
Morning, Bethany. This is Paul Kazmarzik, New York State Department of Health, Bureau of Water Supply Protection.
Morning, Paul. And Department of State.
Hi, Kate Black, Department of State. I'll be on as long as I can. Home with a sick baby today. I don't know if I'll be able to stay the whole time.
Well, thanks for calling in.
Yeah.
Good morning. SUNY ESF.
Good morning. This is Steve Shaw.
Good morning. And NRCS. Okay. So then I just want to say a quick welcome to all of the districts and members of district boards that have joined us this morning. Please feel free to put your name and your district in the chat. Thank you. I think we move on to review and approve minutes.
excellent. Thank you, everyone, for participating today. Are there any additions, corrections, or changes to the minutes?
I'll just make one note. There was a correction. I had missed a participant. So we made that correction and should be in the version of the minutes that was distributed shortly before the meeting. Probably be sharing my screen.
Any others, anyone?
There we go.
Motion to approve, please.
So moved.
Second,
Second.
moved and seconded. Go to voting. Dave?
Yes.
Erica?
Aye.
Darren?
Aye.
Approved. Thank you very much. Correspondence, Bethany, and staff update.
I do not have any official correspondence to share. And at this point, I don't believe we have any staff updates beyond what we shared at the last meeting, that there is, we're actively trying to backfill the ag down point source position. And we'll share more as it becomes available.
Okay. Our next on our agenda is the Ag Non-Point Source Program with Bethany and Tyler.
Great.
Can you kick things off?
Yes, thanks, Dale. So quick dashboard updates for Ag Non-Point, and forgive me, I have to start over the next couple of weeks and get round 29 entered in here. But right now we have 7, actually probably 8 active rounds now. Currently in our database system, there's 34 active, 160 active contracts across all of them. That totals roughly $56 million. We have 163 completed contracts, and that totals just over $51 million. There were actually a couple closeouts that snuck in between the last meeting and this meeting. I think, so round 22 and round 23, just wanted to note that there is only one contract each remaining, so we're pretty close on that one. And the round 21 contract that was hanging in there has been closed out.
Fantastic.
So I'll just add, there's not much of a progression for the round 29 contracts at this point. We're still waiting to get approval from the Office of the State Comptrollers on our round as a whole. They have to review our solicitation to make sure that it was conducted in accordance with the state procedures. So that's still happening right now. But once we do get that approval from the State Comptroller's Office, we can proceed with processing the contracts for round 29. So at this point, they're all kind of in a pending status. We're working on, I know our field staff here are working with districts to get the plans of work put together and submitted to the state office, so then we can turn those into contracts. So once those hopefully start moving soon, we'll provide a more detailed update. We do have 2 time extension amendments to bring to the state committee today for review and consideration. So these were distributed to the voting members in advance of the meeting, the complete request packet, as well as the summary report that everyone is seeing on the screen. So the first amendment for consideration comes to us from Allegheny County Soil and Water for a round 25 contract. This contract currently ends in February of 2024, and the district is seeking a 1-year time extension for the reasons cited on the summary report. This request has been reviewed and is supported by Victor DiGiacomo, Region 1 AEA. There was a previous time extension that was approved for this contract. But we are, recommending referring to the state committee. Victor, do you have anything to add for this contract?
The only thing I'll mention, in addition to what you've already said, is that the project is currently under construction, so the farm is moving forward with the project. They're anticipating that the weather remaining for the year will impact things, which is the reason for the extension. So I support they intend to have this project completed as quickly as possible. And for that reason, I support the extension.
Thanks, Vic.
Questions, comments, anyone? Motion to approve? Second?
Second.
Moved and seconded, go to voting. Darren?
Aye.
Erica?
Aye.
Dave? Approved, thank you very much. Next, please.
All right, next amendment comes to us from Region 4, specifically Clinton County Soil Water Conservation District. They are also seeking a one-year time extension for a round 25 contract. The reason for the extension is cited on the summary report. Their request has been reviewed and is supported by Ryan Cunningham, Region 4 AEA, and referred to the State Committee for consideration. This also will be the second time extension for this contract. Ryan, any other details worth noting?
They put a lot in the narrative here. I was in Clinton County last week and reviewed the project with the district manager. This is a large CAFO. The satellite farm is where the project is that they purchased a few years ago. They did have a barn fire there, so they had to kind of regroup and come up with a new approach to the project, but they're committed to do it. The design is done, and they're looking for construction in 24.
Questions, comments, anyone? Motion to approve, please.
So moved.
Second. Moved and seconded. We'll go to voting. Darren?
Aye.
Erica?
Aye.
Dave? Aye. Approved. Thank you very much. Anything else on non-ag non-point source, Bethany?
Oh, well, I guess I'll mention it now rather than during our kind of round robin, but last Wednesday, we had a webinar, teleconference, I guess, with districts to collect feedback on the round 29 of the program. And I think it was a really good discussion. Districts were able to provide a lot of great comments and things for us to consider as we move forward in starting to work on developing the RFP for the next round of funding, which will be round 30. So just a shout out to all the districts who were able to call in and participate in that. It was kind of a short notice meeting. We threw that together relatively quickly. But for those districts that weren't able to participate, we are always welcoming of feedback, and the recording of that particular session was posted to SharePoint and shared out to districts via email. So just wanted to note that as well.
Bethany, do you have a deadline for comments?
Not at this point.
Okay.
I haven't really even started drafting anything regarding the RFP yet. It is the release of the RFP is delayed. It will not happen till later in 2024. So we have a pretty good chunk of time to get feedback and continue the conversation with districts.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next on our agenda is the CRF, Jennifer, Tyler, and Greg.
Thanks, Dale. I'll jump in and do some dashboard updates real quick. Similar to Ag Non-Point, over the course of the next couple of weeks and months, I'll start entering in all of the latest rounds. So round 7 will get plugged in, and we'll probably have some pending statuses there as well. But for right now, 5 active rounds. I believe we still have the 1 pending contract, but that may actually be active at this point. We have 80 active contracts, and that's totaling just over $13 million. We have 42 closeout contracts across those rounds, and that's totaling $3 million.
Thanks, Tyler. That is round 6 is fully executed, so that is exciting news. We have that round is under contract and moving forward, so that's great news. And then today, we were able to award round 7, so I'm going to talk about round 7 awards and some round 8 approaches. I just want to share some slides. So round 7 was awarded. The press release went out and award letters went out not too long ago. Overall, for the whole round, we received 83 applications. We had 15 million available and 22.6 million was requested in state funding. There was over 66,000 acres of cover crops proposed, which is a big increase from round 6, which is exciting to see. We had 37 acres of riparian buffers, both forested and herbaceous buffers proposed in round 7 for an estimated total of 96,132 metric tons of CO2 equivalent per year emissions reductions. That was in the proposals, so that was overall for the round. This is a little breakdown per track. We did receive 12 proposals in track 1, 36 in track 2, and 35 in track 3. And then I just provided a little information about how many projects of those included new participants. So it's nice to see a good amount of new participants applying to the program. And these are the number of farms within the track that was proposed, amount of state funding proposed, and total project costs. For awarded funds, we were able to award 60 projects with 116 farms. We were able to go just above our available amount. We were able to award 15.974 million, allowing us to not offer any partial awards or not have to break any ties on the ranked list. Of the awarded projects, that will be 40,681 acres of cover crops implemented and 28 acres of riparian buffers implemented. The estimated total emission reduction is approximately 64,000 metric tons of CO2 equivalent per year. So that's kind of a recap of round 7, and I'll just pause and see if there are any questions. Before I go on to talk about some ideas, proposed ideas for round 8.
Just really quick for the awarded amount, were we able to utilize return funds for those to able to go a little bit higher and reach a little bit farther on the ranked list?
So we did have some funding available that we were able to go above the 15 million that we had outlined in the RFP. Yes.
Great.
And so award letters have gone out, the press release has gone out, and we'll be working on plans of work. That plan of work memo will be out shortly, and we'll get those projects going to contract.
I know I've said it before, it might sound a little bit like a broken record, but just a phenomenal round. I mean, We had discussions with the Employees Association 2 years ago about putting 2 rounds of funding, 4 million each, into an $8 million program that we had not yet awarded that much in funds before. And I think there was a direct quote from Employees Association says, if you make that possible, we will respond. And that was not a direct quote. That was a paraphrase. Kind of like if you build it, they will come kind of thing. But true to form, that's exactly what happened. You know, and then the following year we put out $15 million and to get 21+ million in requests, and the amount of great proposals that were awarded. So many thanks go to Soil and Water Districts, but you know, for the work that they're doing with farms, and a lot of thanks also to our evaluators, whose job is getting much more difficult in scoring these proposals. But in reading proposal summaries and you know, putting that together for the press release for the team here, I mean, it was really amazing to read the narratives of these projects. You know, hitting on all, you know, metrics, really phenomenal.
Absolutely. Thank you, Brian. We definitely want to thank reviewers and districts for all the work they put into round 7. If there are no other questions, I have some concepts that I can run through for round 8.
And just really quick, Jennifer, we want to clarify with folks on the line, folks in the room. We do not, for this portion of the meeting, we do not require any recusals. Brian was able to confirm this morning with our ethics attorney that you know, having these discussions here today doesn't you know, present any conflict. So no one needs to recuse at this time.
Thank you. That's great. So I will proceed with some concepts to consider for round 8. So for round 8, we have the following tracks that are being proposed. The first 3 are the same as round 7, and we are proposing to add a 4th track, which I will go into a little more information about in a later slide. We are also looking to bolster tracks 1 and 3 with federal funds that we have been awarded through our Climate Smart Commodities grant through the USDA. All of this will be offered within a single RFP. So we will have some options and pathways for these tracks and funding within a single funding opportunity. So we were awarded a Climate Smart Commodities grant through USDA, and with some of those funds, we are going to help support track 1 and track 3 within round 8. Track 1, it would be to specifically for cover and flare projects, and track 3, all of soil health projects. And really the goal of this is to increase the number of awarded cover and flare projects to reduce methane, and soil health projects, the number of soil health projects to increase carbon sequestration. These are 2 of the highest priority goals in the CLCPA that align with our CRF program and this federal program that will really allow us to maximize funding and maximize the ability to reduce emissions. So both tracks 1 and 3 will include state and federal funds. So the state committee is really seeking to use these federal funds for projects that can meet these requirements to maximize funding available. So with the use of federal funds, we do have some reporting requirements that we will have to meet. So we are seeking farms that can meet these requirements that this would best fit for. And then otherwise, we do have state funds available within each track of funding. And so it's really not the intention to have all landowners meet these federal requirements. That will be within track 1 and track 3, but to find the applicants that can meet them and that it best fits for and utilize the funding in that way. So we do have a new track 4 proposed. It will be for agricultural forestry management, and the goal of this track will be to support healthy, productive forests and afforestation on currently unforested lands on farms for the purpose of carbon sequestration and to promote sustainable and resilient agriculture and forestry. So a little background on this: within the last EPF fiscal year 24 budget, the CRF line item was had a $500,000 set aside to maintain forests and woodlands located on agricultural land for the purpose of carbon sequestration and to promote sustainable and resilient agriculture and forestry. So the intention of this 500,000 is right here to really support forestry on agricultural land. And in brainstorming the best way to do this, we thought a track 4 would be most appropriate. So we're proposing a track 4 that could focus on afforestation and forestry practices on agricultural land. And then overall, from round to round, we really have a goal to improve the measurement, monitoring, reporting, and verification of the practices over time, lining up that the practices we're implementing are meeting the goals that we're setting forth to meet. So in order to do this, we'll be seeking the most efficient ways to confidentially use data from projects and incorporate and build new tools. And some of that is definitely in the works and to come, and will be incorporated into round 8 when applicable and available. But as of right now, Comet Planner and Comet Farm are still our go-to tools for estimating greenhouse gas reductions, and will be required for round 8 where applicable. That is the concepts that I wanted to really bring forth for round 8 today, and happy to have a bit of discussion about this, and we'll be bringing more details about these concepts in the next meeting.
Jennifer, this is Caitlin. CDEA, thank you for all of your work on this. We have had some CDEA representatives attend the TAC meeting where this was discussed, and we brought forward some concerns to Bethany and Dale. Specifically, districts are concerned with federal funds funneling through state programs for their farmers. Conservation districts have varying levels of partnership with their local NRCS staff. Some farms work well with NRCS, some farms don't, and some districts feel that the federal funds may be a hindrance to their execution of CRF round 8. And that was voiced quite frequently with conservation districts. So that was, I just wanted to bring that forward, knowing that this is still in draft form, but to make sure that everyone understands that that's a big concern with conservation districts.
Absolutely, and we hear that concern loud and clear. And first and foremost, we want to help districts and farms implement. So there is state funding that will be within each of the tracks. How exactly logistically it's going to be set forth, I don't have the details to share yet, but we do hear that there needs to be some flexibility in that not all farms can meet federal requirements, and that's okay. We're not asking that to be such. So we do want to build in some flexibility, and we do have state funds within each of the tracks. So like I said earlier, we want to find the farms and the projects that fit with the federal money and use it for those projects that it fits with, and not require that those federal requirements be imposed on all projects in round 8. So we do want to utilize the federal funding where it can be utilized, in order to then, maximize the state funding on projects where, the federal funds won't work. So this could help us maximize the funding across all the tracks, across all the farms, because some farms out there this will fit for, and we'd like to utilize the federal funding in those situations. We hear your concern, and very much taken into how we're drafting round 8.
Thank you, Jennifer.
We did get we did get a question in the chat. Will there be a way to apply for track 1 and track 3 of the grant for either state and federal money? Which I think I could start by helping you answer that one. I think we're working on that and trying to figure out that path forward. I think, just as Jennifer said, there will be mechanisms, or we're going to try to build in mechanisms into the program to maybe allow them to choose, or to make state funds available through those tracks for the farms that may not meet those federal requirements.
Yeah, where we can identify where the federal funding would fit, we'd like to do that. So if we can, find the farms and the projects and group those together where, there are farms out there that already have met these federal requirements, and it's not a problem for, or a heavy lift for, and that would be fitting to utilize federal funds for those farms. And then farms that, that might be an obstacle for, we have federal funding we have state funding that could support those farms. Whether it's going to be in, it might be you telling us, does the farms in this project have, can they meet these federal requirements? If so, then we might put that project with federal funding. If they can't meet, then we might use that with state funding. So as we're building this, we'll make those details available, but we hear that there needs to be some flexibility. So we're going to try and build that in, and we're in talks with fiscal and council on so we're all on the same page with round 8. So and thank you for that feedback, and we want this to be open ahead of the RFP coming out, so that there aren't any surprises, and that we can maximize round 8 and really not. We want to see more projects come in. We want to maximize the funding that we can, but if we can't use the federal funding as well, then that's okay too. We have some other programs we can that we're piloting and using federal funds with too, under the Climate Smart Communities grant. So we want to, I'm starting to ramble here, but I just want to reiterate, we want to maximize the money, and we want, we don't want it to be an obstacle. So we hear the feedback.
Thanks, Jennifer. I think there was another question.
I was just curious. I mean, I understand and share the feels of different layers of funding, but I'm curious if and maybe you were starting to answer this because you're distributing across multiple projects, do you have a sense of what the added dollar amount will be, at least for this round, because it seems like it also has this great potential and able to expand some of the work. But is that going to be dependent upon kind of that balance you're talking about between state and federal contracts, or do you have a set amount that is slated for this round of grants that will be able to kind of amplify what's already there?
Jennifer, maybe I can take a quick stab at that initially. In that through our grant with USDA, we identified across the various elements of our state program, where funding would be most appropriate. And we're given approval by USDA to use our state program as an avenue for those funds. So over the next couple of rounds, primarily, we're looking to utilize the funding from the federal government. And knowing the complexity and the cost of mineral management systems, cover and flare for methane mitigation, we're looking at the majority of those funds to be supplementing that track. But also track 3, and there's the diversity of farm types and project types and the amount of funds that have been proposed under track 3. We also feel like we can extend and offer a lot more if we have federal funds there. But to Jennifer's point and to districts' concerns, we have to also balance, the added federal requirements to how we utilize funding for track 3. Track 2, the feds were very specific and strict with us. Said if there's not a mitigation effect, a reduction in emissions or sequestration benefit, federal funds are not to be used. They looked at our entire list of practice systems and they had a yes and a no and a maybe. So even though with track 2, there are co-benefits, we see it and we track it. If it's a stream corridor project with repairing and planting, there's obviously sequestration benefit. But we didn't want to get into the point where we were parsing out details. So, okay, track 2 adaptation resilience, we're going to cover with state funds only. So that was kind of, where our thought process is going. Of course, no decisions, no recommendations in front of the committee yet on any of that. But that's kind of where we're looking. And Jennifer, I know we've reported on this in the past, just the broad number of direct assistance through CRF. What was that again? I always seem to get it wrong. I don't know why I don't have it at the top of mind.
From the USDA grant,
Yeah.
we have 20 million that we can apply to CRF in rounds 8 and rounds 9.
Yep. So.
And from the EP, so round 8, we have 14.75 million from state funding, from the EPF state funding. So that will go into round 8, and then we have the federal funding that we can add on to round 8.
And really the decision that will be in front of the committee at a later date is, looking at how much do we front load into the first round in hopes that, we can get a good chunk of that under contract versus how much we might want to set aside for the second round. And then in the likelihood, because all the delays that have occurred, getting the award and our grant timelines, we might even go beyond rounds 9 if we still have federal funds and we're under contract. We can, and just like we normally would do with any grant round, we'll learn lessons and we'll do a retrospect and we'll move forward to try to improve it for the following year. So it's I'm going to say kind of a medium term. It's not long term like for the next 5 rounds, but it'll be with us for a while, I think. Yep.
Dan Welch, do you have a question?
Yeah. Jennifer, would those decisions on which projects you're going to direct the federal funding be made after the review panel decisions? Or is that something reviewers will have to factor in?
That would not be something reviewers would weigh in on. It depends on how we're able to ask upfront information about whether a farm may be prepared or able to meet the federal requirements, whether we would determine that before award or after award.
Okay, thank you.
You know, we're thinking of, again, not set in writing yet, but some level of flexibility, as Jennifer mentioned, like an opt-in, you know, for those farms that have got, you know, their federal registration and or, you know how to navigate the programs with the districts, right? So, you know, that would be the type of flexibility that we're now looking at, you know, in response to the very good comments that we received since that first TAC meeting, right? So we got to balance the need to you know, try to do as much as we can with the federal funds, really as a catalyst for, you know, increasing our program even more than we have over the last couple of years, really to meet our state targets for emission reduction with, you know, the realization that the federal funds aren't going to be for every farm out there. So, and we're going to document that, trust me. And we're not alone, right? So the applicants of this program, the PIs have gotten together numerous times and have discussed these challenges. And I think we're in a better position to overcome them because of our district work. You know, remember, there's not-for-profits, NGOs, there's farmers directly, a lot of farmer-led groups that have applied for these funds that are now, you know, learning about the requirements to use the funds, as we have once the awards are made. So, you know, and that's not a criticism, that's just a fact. And, you know, to USDA's credit, they're getting the groups of award recipients together to, you know, communicate in a, you know, single voice, if you will, you know, what, you know, some of the challenges ultimately will be. This was a pilot. The USDA put this out as a pilot. So that's what they were hoping for, to learn some lessons.
Brian, Bethany, and Jennifer, I really appreciate that clarity and a little bit more insight to the proposed round for round 8. I think it's unfortunate that we don't have a USDA representative on the meeting today. And I think it would have been helpful if Blake or Paula could have spoken more to this federal funding and what the requirements may be. I think that may put districts at ease. And I think that districts feel that this lack of communication is trickling down all the way to their local offices as well. If federal dollars are available, will offices be able to execute that money and make sure that the farmers can get it?
Yeah, and that is really good. Oh, go. I'm sorry, I didn't want to jump over whoever's. Go ahead, Jennifer.
Oh, sure. Caitlin, we actually have a federal contact for our grant. We don't have a state contact, and there are the level of state involvement is well, I guess the level of state involvement will not be they're not involved in all of these projects per se. So their communication, they might not have answers, to be honest, because they're not the states. The states weren't really involved in it. It was a grant that came from USDA, and all of our contacts and all of our communication have been with national contacts, not with anyone in New York and RCS. So, you know, we will provide as much information, and we are reaching out to our national contact with further questions. And we are, trying to make connections with FSA and the contacts that are involved in the Climate Smart Commodities grant. So we will provide as many details and as much information, but so the miscommunication or lack of communication from NRCS offices is they're not really involved in this grant. So that's why they may not be able to answer questions or know, and their level of involvement may be minimal. We will try and provide more information about how that connection will work or what kind of review and data we will be needing for projects that will involve the federal funds as we really better understand it in order to communicate what we need. I will actually also, there was a question about match, and if we are using federal funds, or for the projects that we use federal funds on in rounds 8 and 9 of CRF, they will not be able to use equip match. They will not be able, we cannot match federal to federal. So if a project is awarded federal funds through CRF, they will not be able to use equip as matched on it, or any federal match on it. And we will make that clear in the RFP.
Yeah, so that would be another way to screen farms, right? So if they are already participating under EQIP and matching state funds like we do see pretty regularly, then that would be prohibited as far as applying for additional federal funds through the Climate Smart Commodities money. So that is pretty clear, and that was made clear to us from early on, so that would be one kind of pre-screening question. Do you already have federal funding for this project? The answer to that is yes, then, they could still apply for the state resources, but not for the additional federal funds through the RFP.
Jason Cutterback has a hand raised. Still have a question or comment out there?
Yeah, my hand was getting a little tired, thanks, but
I'm sorry. I saw it for a while.
I got to stretch here for a second, but the only statement I guess I really wanted to make was that I did go down, I reached out to my local FSA and NRCS folks who are co-located here in Cayuga, which has been great. Through NRCS, the CPA 52, I'm not sure if folks understand, but that is an NRCS documentation. When I reached out to my local folks to say, hey, how's this going to work? What I was told was they currently don't know. They don't have any idea of the funds that have come down through to help support CRF. What I'm being advised to do is actually fill out the CPA 52s on my own as Soil and Water, submit those CPA 52s, and then I guess just wait. I guess the issue would be if I have to wait, and technically I need the CPA 52 signed by somebody through NRCS for the proposal. But as of right now, I mean, we could be looking at least a year plus out to even have those signed because of an issue with current staffing at the NRCS level. So I guess that's part of my issue, and that the local folks really don't know what's coming down through the pipe at local NRCS, and what do we do if we can't get this stuff signed to help get the federal money for CRF round 8?
Yeah, thank you, Jason. We're trying to get some more clarity on that as well. We do have a memo that was issued to us, as we were working on the scope of work for this contract. There will be a separate avenue for CPA 52 review and approval. And it says in some cases they will have to, seek a local determination. I hope that that's really rare. And again, if we are really, there's a lot of practices that are exempt from CPA 52, so we're taking that into consideration as well. And, you know, I think obviously the manure management systems, cover and flare, that would all be CPA 52. So, you know, we're trying to understand that process so that we can help and that we can, because it says the applicant will fill it out. So that what you're being told at your local NRCS office is computes with what we have in the memo. But there's a lot in there that we think we can help if it's limited to just certain practice systems like cover and flare. I think there's a lot that we can use as a template for filling those out, and hopefully make it as simple on those that are meant to review as possible, so that it doesn't have to be held up in a local determination.
Well, I was just thinking during the match conversation that people should be aware that at least for the track one cover and flare, it's 100% cost share proposition. So the match is taking place before the grant is awarded. So that's actually, in my mind, an excellent development, because although a lot of EQIP and Agnon Point Source and CRF do get leveraged, it's not easy. And to be able to match it up before it even goes out the door just eliminates all of that interaction with your local NRCS trying to work through and coordinate consecutive parallel contracts, because it's already been done. So, and that's a feature that came out a lot during the district meeting on covers and flares, that the landowners were not willing to put in cost share. So you really needed to have 100% cost share in order to get those systems done. And so that this provides for that. So that's all very positive.
Do we know the farms that participate in EQIP that also might participate, say, through Agnon Point Source, for their EQIP involvement? Would they have to meet the similar requirements that we're trying to figure out how they're going to meet for these climate smart commodities money?
That is my understanding. Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Also, I mean, it is a little bit of a burden, right? But the cover and flare people are likely to be bigger farms, and as Brian and Bethany said, already involved with USDA to that level. And I think, you know, if they're going to be getting hundreds of thousands of dollars, a little bit of extra paperwork is not necessarily, you know, too heavy a lift for what they're going to be receiving. And track one.
Our farm is one that had just completed a CRF project of a cover and flare that had both federal and state funding. And you have different steps with each program, but when you're looking at a total of over $300,000 in grant money coming in on a very large project, it's well worth the farmer's time to put that time in to get that grant money. It isn't just a one phone call and you got the money. There's steps you'll have to go through. It won't be for all farms. My brother works on both state and the federal programs nonstop to see what he has to do to meet them. And there are more steps at the federal side usually, but there are some benefits. It's easier to close out a federal one in the end too, getting the money once you've completed it. So I think it's it isn't for all farms, no, but there's enough farms applying now that I believe we'll be able to fit money in for a lot more farms with all this on both sides. It won't fit everybody, no doubt, but it will fit a lot. And maybe not every district will be able to go into the federal side, but there are many that will. So if we can get this money for the state, we need to take steps to help make sure it works for the districts.
Yeah, and that will allow us to use more funding from the state side to address the growing demand, right? So for every federal dollar, again, we're looking at different scenarios for match and all of that, but thinking about the diversity of the types of farms in track 3, for example, that's going to allow us to go much further down that list than we otherwise did just in round 7. So, there certainly will be, I think, a ripple effect benefit into those farms or that aren't ready and or good fit for the federal funding. And Jennifer made a good point earlier as well that we're working with fiscal and council to ensure that we've got steps internally down because if we do our job well, it won't look that different to conservation districts than a traditional state-funded CRF round. It might mean a little bit more frustration on our end, but we'll be able to take advantage of the experience here in this department. There's a lot of it. We might not have a lot of it, but where other divisions have federal funds that essentially are the main source for their programs or supplement their programs, we're learning from those divisions as well. And council and fiscal have got a good understanding of that, and not to mention the fact that we're also not the prime applicant DEC is, right? So they're sub-allocating funds to us. And, we know we need the appropriation authority to administer this additional funding while we fulfill all the federal requirements to be reimbursed. So, it might be kind of very bureaucratic if we get into that level of procedure and protocol at the state committee meeting, but I think it's also important so that we have like a map, very detailed map of how this is all going to go. And I have to say, some of it, might be turn-by-turn directions as we approach, right? So just thank all districts for, their willingness to move forward with us on this and, learn as we go, but also try to just lessen the amount of, potential impact. We don't want to slow down the momentum. We started off talking about round 7 and the incredible momentum that we have, wind at our backs. We want to keep that going.
So I guess to that end, I do want to recognize that there are a couple of additional comments in the chat, not specific questions, but more comments that are expressing concerns, just as we've been talking about here with making, working with the federal funding and meshing the state and federal programs. So don't feel like your comments are ignored. We'll save the chat and maintain them and keep moving forward, trying to find the best path to make it work.
Thank you, Bethany. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Good. Still 3 minutes ahead.
Trying to. So I think, Dale, we're okay to move to the next agenda item.
One last thing on that, all the districts, please keep staff, state up to date on any problems you're encountering on this program for meeting the federal, so we can, it's a whole new ballgame for us working with the federal on this. We need all the information we can get when there's a problem or a benefit, something that makes it easier. Thank you, everyone. Next on our agenda is New York State Policy Review and Approval. Greg?
Dale, thank you. Good morning, everyone. I want to do a sound check here in probably the Albany office is the easiest one. Coming through okay, do you?
Yep.
Okay, great. Dale and I kind of have a bit of a homespun system going here, and it dropped out for about 3 minutes earlier. So if that happens during ours or this part where I'm sharing my screen, just hang for a couple minutes and we'll get it back going. Hopefully by the December meeting, we'll have the formal Cisco WebEx back working that we had become accustomed to. right, share my screen here. Stephanie, I'll use you as a test again. Is that coming through okay on your end?
Looks good, Greg.
Okay, thank you. Let me know if any of that changes here. So thanks a lot. This is the policy tech guideline review portion of the agenda. And we're going to work through 4 documents. And those are the state committee's fairly now long-running soil health policy, the state committee's riparian buffer establishment policy that started back in AIM 16, and then a couple new upgrades to the state committee's BMP systems catalog related to forestry, agroforestry, and a small coordinating update to the rotational grazing system. And we'll work through those one by one for the 2 policies and have discussion and consideration for a vote by the state committee. And then the last 2 are, we'll bundle those together for a similar approach. So for the first one, that's the state committee's soil health policy for cost share programs. And we started talking about an update to this with the technical advisory committee in July and got some good feedback there. Abigail Edwards was leading the task at that point, and then in August she transitioned to another position. USDA's gain, our loss for sure, and we picked it back up in the fall here. Talked about it at the last TAC, and there's some components for upgrading. But then we saw the opportunity, given the start of the new USDA fiscal year, to wait a little bit into the moment that we're in now so that we could capture those fiscal year 2024 NRCS flat rates for our data here. Because the soil health policy, one of its primary features is that it has per unit rates. And those are based on an average of the last 3 years of rates from NRCS. And then most of them are multiplied then by 1.2 to cover contingencies, provide an enhancement, provide a little more incentive. And then with cover crops, those are they're multiplied by 1.35 as opposed to 1.2. And I'll show you what those updated numbers look like now that, with a big thanks to Emily Armstrong and Josh Reneski at NRCS with sharing the data that they submitted to the federal level. If you've gone up to the federal rates website for New York, they're not yet posted for 2024. But we were able to get a draft from them to use in this, and they'll be posted once that's all processed at the federal level. So this policy has flat rates for a whole host of NRCS conservation practice standards that move things forward for soil health on farms, either on their own or stacked as even a broader system. And they're used by all of our cost share programs, so Ag Non-Point Source and CRF, as well as the Tier 4 cost share track of the AIM-based program. And it's done to incentivize, to streamline, to simplify, so that a district can work with farmers to plan up these practices, implement them, and then close them out, report on them and close them out in a simple way where it's a flat rate certification and there is not the need to show a stack of proof of payment information with a more complex, not sort of unique to that farm type of implementation project that we might get with repairing forest buffer or a manure storage or a barnyard project or a grazing system. On the screen, so the per unit rates highlight there is the signal that we have updated the rates, and let me show you those. I apologize here. Trouble with my windows. There it goes. Good. Here they are. All right, so I'll show you the comparison just so you can see the change. So the flat rate policy includes other things and practices I should mention, and those are testing services. And we've expanded the list of testing services that are available to include some adaptive nitrogen eating tests, as well as some heavy metal testing, in addition to the soil health, basic nutrient, and manure compost tests. And those have gone up over time. There've been some additions of packaging costs in there. And so you can see that the upgrades to those that are for use by all of our programs. And then the list of practices are very common and familiar to the ones that you've been working from. And you can see the 2021 policy that we currently have in play, the proposed 2024 policy for these, and then the difference there. And by and large, they've increased in what makes sense to invest in because of increased costs over time here. With the exception of a few, and I looked into these conservation, a few of these boutique conservation cover variations, and those were kind of due from an artifact back in 2019 and 2020 that were used in the 2021 rates in the cost scenarios within NRCS that had them quite higher, and then they dropped down and been stable since 2020. So that's why those are a large negative, and we stuck with those. I mentioned earlier that these are a 3-year average, so the 2024 includes 2022, 2023, and 2024 now to come up with a number, and then we multiply by 1.2 with the exception of cover crops, and those are multiplied by 1.35. And we had a good discussion about that in the July TAC, where let's think about these rates. Maybe they're a little high. And then, it was perfect timing. We got into August and cover cropping season and the September and October implementation of that. And districts really appreciate your input, Jason Cutterback especially, on bringing some real world costs from this recent fall. And they were higher. They were higher than we thought. So we went back to the convention, which has been used before, like in the 2021. Of multiplying the NRCS rates for cover crops by 1.35. And so in terms of method, that's no change from 2021. It is a change from the data that we put out, this summer, and then at the last TAC meeting that we had, 2 TAC meetings ago, I'm sorry. And then tillage, perennial seedings, strip cropping. And that's the list, and these have been out for review, and we appreciate people taking a good look at those and getting back to us with comments. Just a note here, you'll notice that we didn't include the organic carbon amendment standard, and that's because in looking at it and talking with the soil health group at Cornell, who's got a lot of experience with purchasing these inputs, and then hearing this similar with some of the districts who have been dabbling with that, it's kind of a buy it and apply it type practice. So it's quite simple to collect cost information and plug in and close out the project, which is not always the case with some of these others. And the costs vary widely. So we decided that it'd be better for the farmer, for the district, and for the program to be project specific and material specific. They herd ranges from for a biochar type product or biochar containing product, could run from $300 to $1,500 a ton. So let's be specific about it. And how these will look is in a simplified schedule of costs that supplies the rate for, think about, sorry for everybody, but for the districts on the SW3 form or the SW form, there'd be the 75 rate. The state is responsible for a match rate and then a total cost rate. And so these numbers can be just taken, plugged in, and then you multiply by the number of acres that are done. I know last time around we tinkered with one that had cost share rates for each of our cost share programs and recognized that that was confusing. So here, these are the rates. This is what you use regardless of the program, and recognize that it's has a multiplier of 1.2 or 1.35 baked into that, and a simplified closeout procedure. So that's kind of the substance of the the flat rate part of this. I'll pause for any questions or discussion with that, and then I'll move back into some of the policy mechanisms that we've revised based on district feedback. We can come back to. All right. So based on discussions, interest in flexibility, and one major factor of flexibility is how long a district and a farmer can propose a project for. And with our major programs, Ag Non-Point Source and CRF, contract terms are 5 years. So the good question came up, hey, could we do something more than 3 years, which was our current policy with a farm, if that worked for everybody involved. And so we built in an approach here where these can be proposed at application time, right, for 3, 4, or 5 years at their choice within the terms. Of course, that's a different story if you're doing this the rain base, and that's a 2-year program, so 2 years is what to aim for. And so you can still see that we're running with what seems to be a successful approach of multi-years of funding to be able to create that scenario where the district is working closely with that farmer over multiple crop seasons to be able to try, make mistakes, learn from their mistakes, and improve upon it the next year and repeat, right? So that there's a better chance that the farmer has found the efficient way to implement on their own budget, and true adoption has taken place after the end of the contract. Certainly, there is space within this, and you can see some changes from must to may in here. That's not to indicate, one and done type approaches. The strong ethic of this is multi-year work, but it's also it's more so or absolutely to recognize that, sometimes we have bad falls. So if I was aggressive and working with a farmer and they want to do 5 years, I'm keen on doing 5 years, and we didn't get all 5 in, we'll still pay on what was implemented, right? But we strive for the best outcome, and you pick the what seems comfortable with the farmer between 3, 4, or 5 years at the application phase. Any discussions on those upgrades, I'm going to call them, because were good ideas that were brought to us? Already covered the rate updates. I mentioned the testing services. This is all of the ugly track changes here, just to show you. I should have mentioned that. Changes relative to the current 2021 approach and additions, and they just recognize that we have a broader suite of testing packages that are available to be worked with a farmer through their Tier 3 plan. So not standalone testing services, but to help with their tier 3 plan or Tier 3 plan update or evaluation. And then those also, as I mentioned before, had upgraded costs. And a good spot by a district recently of when we're talking about here for cover crops specifically, outlining the approach of having 3 touches per year where we kind of set things up and have to plan for that year and then go out and assess after planting to see that they were able to fit it into the planting window and got some good potentially emergence if the timing is right, or just planting, and you could certify payment at that point. And then a really important spring follow-up. Recognizing name base, you can't do that in the second year because that program's done in December. So just a note there to acknowledge that for the second year, it's a two site visit expectation to help with the plan going into the fall, and then to follow up on how planting went. Just more edits here to recognize that flexibility with 3, 4, or 5-year contracts with our larger programs. I'll pause there. I think that's all the news to update and report. Pretty similar story as the last TAC meeting and discussions, and appreciate people putting eyes on this and giving us feedback. If districts or fellow staff or voting members have any questions.
We want to vote to approve it, don't we? Any questions, anyone, comments? Could I get a motion to approve the new soil health policy or the updated soil health policy?
So move.
Second, please.
Second.
Moved and seconded. We'll go to voting. Erica?
Oh, second. Oh, sorry.
You were
Second.
muted.
Second, and your vote.
Oh, aye, yes.
Darren?
Aye.
Dave? Aye. Approved. Thank you very much. Next on the list.
Thank you, everyone, voting members. Right next on the list then is another technical guide policy. This one is called the Riparian Buffer Establishment Policy. Boy, that's a wordy title up at the top there, but roll with me on it. And this was a really cool idea. It started with when we shifted the AIM-16 program to have a cost share implementation track. And it recognized the idea that riparian forest buffers that are installed through anybody's cost share program or for any reason, right? After they've been implemented, so planted, they experience from the Upper Susquehanna Coalition, from Delaware County, from the Stroud Center in Pennsylvania, strongly recommends that there's, between 3 to 4 years often of maintenance or establishment support or tender love and care, whatever you want to call it, after they've been planted, so that those trees and shrubs can thrive on their own without as much human intervention. But those early years are really important. And it worked really well, or almost the only place it could work is in a program that's not competitive at the state level, right? Where it's the district's decision to choose what projects they work on for Tier 4 based on local priorities and their AIM strategy. And so this can be applied then through that, through the AIM-based program to do that post-implementation establishment care to mow and control weeds and do stand assessments and replant if there were some losses and things like that, to make sure that forest buffer a few 4 years out can stand on its own. We really appreciate the few districts that have taken us up on that. It's awesome. Anywhere where there is a planted fledgling riparian forest buffer in the state, we think this would be a great thing to apply to in your AIM-18 work, for instance. So encourage more and more use. And if you have questions about it, please reach out to your regional coordinator or me. And we'd be happy to talk about some of the moving parts here. So we made a very slight change here, and that's just toward flexibility, and it was just sort of an unintended restriction there. We thought we had a good idea, but after one cycle of use there with districts, you know, the recommendation came back of, hey, let's not have this 1 year pause after the implementation of the RFB through another program or effort before you can kick in to do this. Let's have this just be can follow right after at the district's professional judgment of RFB establishment. It could even be a part of an RFB implementation project with a name base where they got right into it in the first year. And then you could imagine maybe the maintenance requirements might be small, but you can imagine some watering requirements, maybe some weed control requirements. So all based locally at the best professional judgment on when this kicks in relative to the implementation or planting of an RFB. And that is the main punchline for and tracked edits here that you see on this page. And then the other major update were that this comes along with some flat rates, and it fits in with our the way we handle our flat rates for soil health, for instance, where if doing this work as a part of an AIM-based Tier 4 cost share track project, there are some either district or farmer or private sector contractor work for weed control or replanting based on a stand assessment. You can use the flat rates and put those right into the SW form, put those at closeout, put those right into the flat rate certification form. And similarly to the soil health practices, it doesn't require a stack of proofs of payment, just that the action was completed with whatever standard there. And we listed three major ones, two on the topic of weed control, and then one for replanting. These, based on working with the Upper Susquehanna Coalition and Lydia and other foresters and folks with experience with RFPs, were just sort of primary examples of flat rate practices you might use in this post-implementation maintenance work with a forest buffer. There is an important footnote down here that, if there are other practices that you deem fit from our catalog from NRCS, you can certainly use those too. And you'd use the flat rate for fiscal year 2024 from NRCS to in the SW and the reimbursement. So commonly used ones here, just as a primary example to pull off and go with if it fits your system. If there's something more specialized that you're looking for, you're welcome to use the NRCS rates. Certainly labor without materials or contractor work for this establishment is handled. That's handled by district staff, is reported on the other side of the ledger with the AIM-based technical assistance track hours. One example BMP change that was suggested from both the forester up north and Lydia toward the south was that we move from the herbaceous weed treatment to brush management chemical. That covers a broader range of what you might encounter in a buffer. Not just herbaceous weed control, right? But maybe getting into some woody perennial weed control as well. And the per acre rate lines up a lot better with experiences that was reflected from Delaware County, I believe, relative to the lower rate for just herbaceous weed management spraying. So that's an upgrade we feel based on good experience. An edit to link it up to the standard and the updated standard, and that's the long and short of it for the riparian forest establishment policy. I will pause for questions. Stuff I missed from my colleagues on the state committee or comments from districts and partners.
I guess, Greg, just a quick clarification, and apologize if you already did say it, but if this policy, this updated policy is approved today, this can be used on or for the AN 18 Tier 4 projects,
Uh-oh.
if there are any, or no?
We, our homespun system might have paused there for a little bit. I think you were asking if we approve today, we can get this a part of AIM-18.
That is what I asked.
Very cool. Yeah, and I should have mentioned that with the soil health policy. That's a perfect question, timing. With both of these policies in place, we will now have everything we need to package up the Tier 4 track information for AIM-18 up on the SharePoint site district. Yeah, folks who are interested in assembling their plans for Tier 4 AIM-18 work that is officially due on May 1st, but welcome anytime, could do that. We appreciate your patience there. Holding until now allowed us to scoop up those 2024 NRCS rates, so we're current. And we are interested in looking at these and refreshing them every 2 years, whether it's a soil health policy or this. I should have mentioned that as well, so that it coincides right with the cycle of the AIM-based program. It doesn't hurt the other programs either. In fact, it helps them because we're updating them more frequently than 3 years, which is our primary goal. Thanks for that, Bethany. Other things from partners, districts, colleagues.
Greg, I've got a question for you. For the practices that we've established flat rates for, can districts still use actual costs as an option, or is it we're just moving to flat rates in all our programs and that's where we're at?
This one's kept simple at flat rates. I will say there's several variations of these practice standards in the rate schedule for fiscal year 2024 EQIP. So, that might be one knob that can be turned if these are unsatisfying.
If no other questions, could I get a motion to approve the updated riparian upper forest policy? Second. Moved and seconded. We'll go to voting. Erica?
Aye.
Darren?
Aye.
Dave? Approved. Thank you very much. Next.
Thank you, voting members. The next one is the next two. Let's bundle them together, and those are some updates to our DMP systems catalog. And so, what went out for review over this fall and for this meeting is on the screen right now are two component systems. And I will say, just to set the stage a little bit, that there's been some good comments, particularly with the one that's on the screen, the new forestry, agroforestry system that we're proposing that relate around professional qualifications to do certain types of work. So as one person, I feel like I'm presenting this so on state committee's behalf so that we can have information and further calibrate about it, but would like to get a little more feedback from a cadre of foresters that we've been working with from districts before we finalize it. Certainly that could get ironed out in discussion and voting members are certainly inclined to take it in all directions, but I just wanted to be upfront about that based on some recent comments. Okay, so with that context, the forestry agroforestry system, a little larger here, was developed to take a next step with districts and farmers in doing more and different kinds of forestry work on farms. To date, we've been bootstrapping this one a little bit, where several years ago, we developed a forest conservation Tier 3A plan guideline, which at a minimum bar had this guided districts to work in forest lands on farms for purposes of soil and water conservation. And if they had a forester on staff, certainly, you could elevate from that minimum and do other silvicultural, work in the woods based on the needs of the environment and the interests of the farmer. And then a lot of those projects and practice systems were drawn up under the structural erosion control system. So this was a needed step forward and allows for districts with different skill sets and farmers with different interests to do a greater diversity of work in forest lands on farms. Right, for all sorts of goals, and you can see the definition there, enhancing the growth of trees for carbon sequestration and a host of other benefits that come along with healthy trees on current or proposed forest lands. So this is, where used can be for afforestation tree planting on open lands like cropland or pasture or idle open lands that's kind of in scrub right now. Pasture, even that will be continue to be used as pasture, and they'd like to incorporate an agroforestry element into it. Those are all open game, fair game, and deliberately built into this draft, as well as existing forest lands on farms. There's a linkage here with the prescribed rotational grazing system, which I'll switch to when we're done with this to show, just for coordination's sake, a small update in language there. But at this point in time, until we have a better sense for guidelines that are workable across various conditions in the state, trainings based on those guidelines of, not only all of us on the phone, partners, districts, but also, farmers, workshops for farmers, as well as some, more success stories and examples that we can all learn from. We are not proposing that this be used to introduce, livestock into existing forest lands or develop more formal grazing systems within existing forest lands. And that's just because those are sensitive areas in the environment. Oftentimes there's a reason they're forested after New York State was largely deforested years and years and years ago. And that's an area that has a high risk for environmental issues and takes a high level of management. Certainly there are some examples in the state to be able to meet all of those objectives of livestock, of agroforestry, of soil and water conservation, of carbon sequestration, with that very integrated system in existing forest lands. So that kind of that's the linkage to prescribed grazing, and I'll get into that a little bit more here. And that kind of gets into the systems description part of it, where we've outlined, 4 basic scenarios here, but there could be more. But this is a way to be clear and give examples and be tangible, and that's a core element of these systems descriptions in our BMP catalog, right? Is to help provide some definition for the application of NRCS practice standards in a complete solution out on farms in an array of management areas. All right, so for this one, it made sense to attempt to articulate these different scenarios. So the first scenario is tree planting. So site prep, tree planting, establishment on open land for the purpose of afforestation. And in each of these because we have one down here that it involves, this happens to be the third one, an example where there's work in existing forests on more complex, silvicultural or forestry practices. We're talking, stand management, invasive species management, timber harvest management, agroforestry pursuits, sugar bush management, and so on, that those are requiring a forester. So we said, hey, that requires a forester. One needs to define a forester, right? And so we included that in this system description as well, like we define certain certification needs with our approval authority spreadsheet and in planning guidelines and the AIM manual and so on. So in each of these, there's a nod to, hey, what minimum requirements are we looking for this type of work? So scrolling back up to the first one, for just, tree planting in open land, it goes back to, let's have a good grasp of what this is and what we need to do so that everyone's satisfied, including the environmental outcomes, and go do good work. We were guided by the foresters that we worked with, where in scenarios where they're not relying primarily on purchased trees and planting trees, but rather primarily or solely using existing tree species that are in that successional, early regrowth land to provide afforestation through natural generation, that would require a forester. And this is an area of comment that, I don't think there's consensus on, and we have an interest in circling back with the foresters we've been working on and discussing this, where to draw this line. If we're afforesting, if we're bringing back trees on open land through natural regeneration, do we need a forester there, or is that something we would leave to local judgment of knowledge, skills, and abilities, right? The next, improve my, excuse me, everyone. I'm just going to open the chat here. Yeah, right. So concerns from Wendy on the inclusion of I should probably jump to it here. The inclusion of qualifications of a forester in the system. I will say, let me back out for a little bit. We haven't implemented this, and there are other upgrades to the BMP systems catalog across all the systems that we're not bringing in this effort. But one of them was to just sort of make clarification of when, a professional credential is needed for some of these, and it's captured elsewhere. Really, we all know with approval authority, if it's an engineering practice, so said by the State Board of Engineers and Land Surveyors, we have to have an engineer. Certain things tied to the 590 standard and CNMP require an AIM certified planner or an NRSIS certified planner. Certain agronomic practices, like many in the soil health policy, require a certified crop advisor. And just bringing those, so it's a little clearer if we're working in a system of, the credentials that may be needed. So there is precedent for, defining professional credentials with certain types of work. It's just not well articulated in the systems catalog, right? So I have comfort with that. I think these are good questions though on where to draw the line with the need for a forester. And I see another layer of that in your question, Wendy, of, is that line really based on some sort of, and you can see in the yellow text here, some sort of forestry degree. We worked with foresters, and I should have named them earlier, but Pat Krass from Jefferson County, Kristen Ballou from Franklin County, Joe Cervelati from Oswego County, and Lydia Brinkley from the Upper Susquehanna Coalition have been with us in helping us with our forestry pursuits, whether it's the Tier 3A planning protocol for forest conservation systems, or a really steady, it's at every ConSkills, it's at every water quality symposium track on forestry. And then they've really stepped up to help us with this system as well. And some guides to go along with it to maybe help with, a person like me know how to do a good job with tree planting, right? How to teach an agronomist how to plant trees. And this is what bubbled up from those discussions. We could not hang it on, Society of American Foresters, SAF certification. That's too limiting right now. But with the NRCS, I guess TSP definition of a forester, they used these, an associate's degree in 4 years or a bachelor's degree in forestry in 2 years. And then that would be those actual credentials would be determined and assessed in terms of experience locally, right? That lined up with the NRCS approach. The NRCS approach had a plan review requirement too, but we pulled that off. And so that's the basis for that, which comes into relevance in some of these lines that we're drawing. So if it's proper forestry, silvicultural work in existing forests, you're going to need a forester. And you can see where we currently drew lines based on discussions and advice. Although I don't think there's consensus among the foresters here on natural regeneration efforts in current open land needing a forester. So I see 2 points of future discussion on this before we've really got this where we need to be is, where do we draw the line with natural regeneration? And then is this the best way to define a forester in a simple, accessible way? Certainly not a census survey, but we did take stock of the people who are in districts with forestry skills and what their experience and credentials are, and that also in our discussions with the district forester cadre seemed to align pretty decently with this NRCS definition. But again, thinking based on the comments here, really appreciate those. It's worth a revisit and another discussion. All right, there's the second system here is tree planting again, but for the purpose of agroforestry. And here's where there's the connection with the prescribed grazing system, where this is going to be for, could be, right? If it's associated with pastures, that's going to be just planting into existing open pastures and not introducing grazing animals or working with grazing animals in the woods. Not ready to take that step yet for the reasons I mentioned earlier. I've talked about the third example, no particular order here, but that's conventional, proper, complex, multifaceted forestry work within existing forests on farms. And then the fourth one is the one that's probably most familiar, and that's what districts have been doing in forests on woods since we started the Tier 3A planning protocol for forest conservation plans. And that's at a minimum working in forest lands on farms to protect sensitive areas, to reduce erosion, to help with all sorts of management and goals of the farm in their woods, and do it in a way that is conservative of soil and water. So think, recreation trails, logging trails, landings, stream crossings, setbacks from, vernal pool areas and streams and things like that. And this, as it has been, just requires the knowledge, skills, and ability determined locally. And certainly these can involve some specific practices that require a professional engineer. So those are the examples. Some just edits here, good catches from districts over the last couple of weeks. And the design and rhyme and reason of a new system that we would like to bring into the catalog. Just to finish the sentence there, why the linkage with prescribed rotational grazing? And just to be clear and coordinated on the approach here, we added some language. So the entire grazing system is as you've known it, but with the exception of the addition of this highlighted language in yellow there that was out in the draft, that we can support silvopasture practices in grazing systems where trees will be planted within or immediately adjacent. So think something maybe for shade on the side or a windbreak just on the other side of the fence. But it's not currently applicable to implementation of grazing or silvopasture within existing forest lands due to the complexity of planning, designing, and managing livestock on such lands and the potential environmental risks associated with this land conversion. I think we recognize that not everybody will agree with that, and it's maybe a conservative initial stance here, but it's not a forever stance. So we're hopeful that there are some really good examples in the state. Many of us have gone to trainings at Brett Chetzoy's farm, for instance, and just with more understanding, better guidelines, better training for all of us, including farmers, that this could be an option in the future, but just not right now. So I will pause there and scooch the chat over here.
So I think the inclusion of the forester requirement perhaps bears a little bit of need for discussion among the voting members. It is something that there are concerns from districts out there. So I guess before we approve this system to be included in the catalog, I want to make sure that we are fully discussing and understanding what the concerns are there, and making the best decision to go forward.
Stephanie, that is good context. If I can layer in one more piece, this is not sort of a requirement for me to head back to the office and put my head down and put together the tools that we need for AIM 18 like the other two policies were. So I will say that there's a time for a little discussion on this. Certainly, we'd like to get this out and put into the complete systems catalog with enough time for everybody to get a good view of it as they anticipate projects for CRF 8, because this certainly can be used in any of our programs, but was really stimulated, motivated by the idea of having a new track 4 that focused on tree planting, focused on improving regeneration and carbon sequestration in existing woodlands and so on. So we don't want to drag our feet too long, but this isn't as time dependent as the other two.
Can you bring them back next month or at a later date? Not sure yet. Okay.
I'm open to discussion. If folks want to draw this line and it makes sense to everybody right now, we can, but.
An alternative could be to remove the language for now and approve the the system. And then, as we go through, and as Greg mentioned, I think a direction for the future for the Ag BMP catalog would be to add in more of these references. Perhaps it's more appropriate to do it at that time.
That sounds good to me.
Could be an option, yep.
No other comments, anyone?
Hi, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
So this is Wendy Walsh. I'm the one that put the comments in the chat. And then I've also been bugging Greg over the last couple of weeks, so I apologize. But
no.
I will say, I do appreciate taking some time just to look at this further. It's not so much even that the inclusion of the forester definition would be in the system itself. I understand you're moving that way with, other systems and we have certification requirements. I guess my hang up is on this particular definition of what a forester is. I feel like there should be some additional consideration for maybe someone with a different type of degree who's had additional years of experience that could then fill that role. And my concern is I might have someone on district staff now that actually could meet those requirements but doesn't have that forestry degree. So I just wanted to see some flexibility given there based on, I don't want to constrain districts. This is a growing field for us, and I think we have a lot of local knowledge that we could utilize, but worry that if this definition is included the way it is here, it might constrain existing staff that we have on.
Why don't we wait then? And we'll you can get the discussion with Greg and staff and see what we can modify that. And then we can always approve it in December.
Thank you.
Yeah, Dale and Wendy, thanks. Yeah, I should, sorry, I don't see a participant list right now. I got a lot of screens on open on a little screen, but there was discussion with our, really appreciate the foresters' time with us. And there was discussion there about, particularly with this system where it's forestry and silvicultural work within existing forests and, these types of things that, a misstep could cause, set a forest back decades. So there was a level of seriousness right there. And so that was a driving logic behind, this type of definition. And I just wanted to reflect that discussion that was had with the foresters for this.
And I would just say I'd appreciate that. And I just also noted though, Greg, if you scroll back down just a little bit, the forestry under that one section where it was talking about the timber stand improvements and things like that requiring, and the version I saw, it just said a forester will play a key role. It looks like it's now being required was added to it.
Yeah, it was always intended to be required, and it was my formal language in that case that wasn't as explicit as it should have been. So when the prior version, Wendy was talking about, it said a forester will play a key role in such projects. That was always intended to say a forester is required. And when you put something aside and then you revisit it a couple weeks back, and some people have commented, things look in a different light, and so I said that more clearly to reflect that conversation, that discussion from district foresters.
So just looking at the time, I know we had a couple questions in the chat, but we'll try to maybe address those for our next meeting. I think maybe we should wrap up this discussion. So for the forestry, agroforestry BMP system, we're gonna take that back and do a little bit more work. What about the prescribed rotational grazing system update?
Just from program level here, that can ride along with the agroforestry system, just because they coordinate together. We wanted to have them coordinate now that we're sort of talking about management in both areas. So it probably makes sense to keep it as a pair, if one person's opinion.
Yeah, if you can fine tune it some, what the questions are on it, maybe we can approve it next month.
Are all the voting members on board with that approach? All right.
I think so. Okay, if no further questions for Greg at this time, we'll move on.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Greg.
Yeah, awesome, thank you. Huge level of work.
That part is Bethany with the subcommittees.
Yes, and we are a bit behind schedule, so this should be relatively quick. I wanted to take some time on the agenda today to refresh everybody on the subcommittees that we have developed through the State Soil and Water Conservation Committee, and also introduce a new subcommittee that we're going to be putting together. We have kind of put together and starting up. So there are a number of subcommittees that have been developed through the state committee to help address specific issues and areas that districts are working in. Our first subcommittee is the Operations Subcommittee, which is primarily made up of soil and water districts and state committee staff. This, from what my research showed, kind of came to be as the result of a strategic goal objective that was written into the 2014-2018 State Committee Strategic Plan. That that goal was defined the importance of state committee helping soil and water conservation districts with their operational issues and helping them to conduct their operations. So this subcommittee was formed to discuss those operational issues that districts encounter, to assist districts in working on their operational policies, and also to set a framework of good operational practices. So what I am hoping to do, and what we've been trying to do over the past year, is to gain interest from soil and water districts in trying to find people who might be interested in participating in this subcommittee, because I'd like to, reinvigorate this subcommittee and start meeting again in 2024. Back in June, when we conducted the survey of districts for the strategic plan, also when we had our district managers meetings, a need was presented from many districts across the state for an operations manual update. So that is, I think, something that the subcommittee focused on initially, and would be an immediate task for this reformed subcommittee. It's something a resource that all districts need and use, and we need to have it updated and available for them. But I think, we should continue, once that's done, we should continue this subcommittee to keep those, operational issues up front so we can help districts handle them. So that one is out there. Oops. I went too far. But we also have a municipal assistance subcommittee, actually, I think is the actual title, or municipal subcommittee. This is a group that's primarily made up of districts, state committee staff, and partner agencies. I think specifically the DEC will attend these meetings to offer their insight into some of the issues that are discussed. This subcommittee was formed as a forum for exchanging information on municipal programs, kind of outside of agricultural sector. This committee also helps to assist districts in working with municipalities on various programs and projects. and sets a framework of how to establish relationships with municipalities that can be shared with other districts. So I believe this committee last met in March of 2023, but just like we want to do with the operations subcommittee, I think we should continue this subcommittee, and if possible, and if necessary, we could work to increase the frequency that this group meets starting in 2024. I also see this as a really interesting and unique opportunity to try to engage other partners, beyond DEC. I think we have some great advisory members from other state agencies that might be able to participate in some of these conversations. The next subcommittee that probably you hear most about during our state committee meetings is our Technical Advisory Committee. And this is a subcommittee that is attended by state committee staff, but also is comprised of the advisory members to the state committee. So those 9 agencies that are indicated in district law as advisory members, those are our principal attendees to the TAC. The role of this subcommittee is, and I think it has kind of morphed over the years, but is really to engage state committee advisory members. This is a great opportunity. Those meetings are a great opportunity to provide, or for subject matter experts to provide knowledge and insight into specific topics or discussions. Routinely, we will utilize the Technical Advisory Committee platform to discuss the development of our state committee programs or the development of state committee policies, to really kind of get into the more technical aspects of those policies to make sure that all aspects are being considered. This committee also fosters a collaborative and cooperative approach to just continue the advancement of natural resource conservation goals and to continue to support conservation districts. This committee often meets quarterly or on an as-needed basis. We haven't really met that quarterly meeting goal this year, but we'll try to get back to it for 2024. But no, I'll move on to the next one and then come back. So the new one that I wanted to highlight for this group today is a State Programs Advisory Committee. And this is a subcommittee that we are developing that will be made up of state committee staff and soil and water conservation districts, with the main goal to discuss state committee programs that districts are the eligible applicants for, get their feedback on past rounds and ideas for moving forward. We want to, just gather program ideas and feedback, not only for our existing programs, but also potential new program ideas. And we want to use this committee as a platform to identify priority focus areas for funding. So a really exciting thing, the inaugural meeting of this subcommittee will take place on December 15th, so very soon. It will be open to all soil and water districts, and I think as of yesterday, we were able to get an official meeting invite out to our district listserv, and are really hoping that everybody is able to participate. It will be virtual this time, just to get the initial one kicked off, and I'm sure things will continue to evolve as we progress with that subcommittee. Now, with the development of this subcommittee and the role that we will be kind of delving more into our state committee programs that might kind of impact some of the discussions that we have at the Technical Advisory Committee. We'll get more into the weeds of the programs and get feedback during our state programs advisory committee, and then perhaps we might shift the role of how we've been able to utilize the TAC so far, but that we're still trying to sort out as well. But I wanted to make mention of that here, that while we still want to maintain the TAC, the role and function may shift just a little bit now that we've been able to put this subcommittee together. And just to close out on this particular topic, these efforts are in response to district's request for, updated guidance materials, enhanced communication, and more involvement in the development of state committee programs. So I think with the reforming of the operations subcommittee, we'll be able to provide those updated guidance materials, at least through that platform specific to district operations. This will allow us additional opportunities to provide enhanced communication with districts, to share more information with them, and get their feedback on all matters of issues, and get more feedback from districts on the programs that they are the eligible applicants for. So we are making sure we're continuing to have successful programs. So the objectives that are there will be objectives that are related to these committees and the targeted outcomes of these committees that will be included in the strategic plan that I'll talk about later on in the afternoon. And I wanted to kind of put this out there to our voting members that voting member participation is absolutely encouraged in any of our subcommittees. And I will double check to make sure that you all have received the meeting notification for the state programs subcommittee. But that is something that maybe we should consider also in 2024. In talking with Dale the other day, maybe we would want to have assigned voting members to each subcommittee to attend, just to further encourage that level of engagement and communication. So good things on the future. That's what I wanted to share with the group today on our subcommittees. Any questions?
Bethany, you want to explain our next section, what we're going to do?
Yes, so the next portion of the agenda, we will be moving into an executive session to discuss state committee voting member appointments. So for everyone else, we're going to be taking a half-hour break. So for folks on the line, I will be sending the Dale and Dave and Darren and groups and folks here, we're going to be going into a breakout session. So everyone else, we will have to ask you, if you're in the meeting in person, we will have to ask you to recuse, and we will re-adjourn, I guess, at 12:30.
That's right.
Thank you all. Let me see if I don't screw up this breakout meeting.
especially in
Okay, trying to make sure we've got all the voting members back. Dale, I see your chair. Oh, there he is.
Yeah, there he is. Did we lose folks?
Yes, we did, unfortunately, but that is what it is. So before we move, I guess, to the next item on the agenda, I just want to update others who have just come back from the executive session on the outcome of that executive session. So we discussed the reappointments or the appointments of the voting members that are currently serving but have expired terms. So Dave Brass, who is currently serving as the Grange representative to the state committee, a candidate has been nominated to take over for Dave's place, and that candidate is going through the appointment process. For Darren Hickling, who is serving as our Farm Bureau representative, at this point, he's considering reappointment. Erica Goodman, who is serving as our urban, suburban, rural, non-farm interest representative. We will be seeking nominations for her replacement, and want to thank you very much for your service to the state committee, and just reconfirming in front of everyone that you will continue to serve until an appointment has been found. Thank you so much for all the time that you've dedicated to the state committee. Scott Ryan, unfortunately, was unable to join us today, so I'll be following up with him. He is our NYACD rep, but actually he is currently serving in his term is still current, but will expire in March of 2024. So we're going to be working on that one as well. And Dale Stein, who is serving as the at-large farm representative, has indicated an interest in stepping down. So we will be seeking nominations for Dale's replacement. But also Dale will confirm in front of everyone that you will continue to serve in your capacity until a new candidate has been appointed. And I will echo what I said to Erica, that we can't thank you enough for your leadership and service to the State Soil and Water Conservation Committee. You're on mute.
Still muted. Who's controlling that?
I don't know.
Great, thank you, Bethany.
Thank you.
Next on our agenda is the strategic plan.
So that is back to me. So stand by while I pull up my presentation. Okay, so as you all know, are you seeing this on the screen? Maybe I didn't share it.
Oh.
Sorry, guys.
I think I did something bad.
What?
Oh, wait, you're back up. For some reason, it had me at the 10D airline.
Oh.
And I just.
Yeah, it never stopped. When you go into breakout session, it doesn't.
Okay, we're good now.
Okay, sorry, that was on me. User error. All right. Let's start over. So as you all know, the State Committee Strategic Plan is or will be expiring at the end of this year as of December 31st, 2023. So when I first kind of assumed this role as executive director back in the spring, I presented the committee a timeline on how we plan to work through the updates or work through the strategic plan and update it as appropriate so that it will be ready to go in 2024. And earlier this year, I presented kind of this timeline that was meant to help keep things on track. And we were able to complete the regional managers meetings in June of 2023, where in addition to that survey, we got a lot of great feedback from districts about the future direction of the State Soil and Water Conservation Committee. Following those meetings, we did begin working on updates to the strategic plan, and just an update on where things are. Drafting has begun, but is far from complete. So I had originally planned to have state committee advisory member meetings take place in the fall, September, October timeframe to go through the proposed changes to the strategic plan. But those haven't taken place yet. But going forward, I hope this to be a focus over the next couple of months to really wrap up the drafts and the proposed changes, and then work with our advisory members and soil and water districts to move the strategic plan forward. So, which kind of pushes back the rest of the timeline that I had originally proposed. So the state committee discussion will be postponed likely until early 2024, and then the state committee approval will be pushed back as well. So this does push back the approval of the 24 to 2028 strategic plan till after its, anticipated date that it will begin. But we still have a pretty good strategic plan in place that, we can work from, and we'll be focused on getting this put together and ready for approval as early in 2024 as possible, so we don't, lose any more time. But go ahead.
I was just gonna say, don't worry about it, because I shortchanged you, because the last time it was a few months late, so you're still good.
We're trying to catch back up. But I did want to take some time today to, update the group on where things are with particular sections. One of the last meetings that we had where we talked about the strategic plan, the state committee moved forward with a set of 5 strategic goals that we're all working on drafting and working on updates for. But I have been very recently working on updating the introduction section, as well as the section of this plan that defines what the state committee is. So while I don't have the exact language on the screen here, because it hasn't been sent out for comment to any advisory members, I didn't want to post the exact edits here, but the introduction will include an emphasis on soil and water conservation districts as leaders in comprehensive natural resource management, and really highlight that there has been an increased demand for services regarding climate change concern and land use pressures, and districts have had to respond to those increased demands. The introduction also highlights that soil and water districts are technical assistance providers for private landowners in both the agricultural and non-agricultural sectors. We want to make sure to broaden that out to really paint the picture that districts have a much broader mission. We've also included references to the Community Leadership and Climate, I'm getting that wrong, the CLCPA.
That's good.
Okay. There's references to the Climate Act and the goals that were written into that, as well as the Clean Water, Clean Air, Green Jobs, Environmental Bond Act. Those 2 pieces of legislation, which will significantly impact the work that not only that the state committee has to do, but will significantly impact the work of soil and water conservation districts for the next 5 years and probably beyond that. So we wanted to include that in the introduction, but also make sure that we're including those throughout the strategic goals and objectives. But the introduction also places emphasis on the collaboration of the state committee and soil and water districts, as well as member agencies, because not one of us can do any work, or we can do work separately, but we work better together. So we want to make sure to emphasize that and really promote collaboration. Also been updating the history, which there's really not too much to update to this section, but I added a sentence to the end that just gets at that we want to provide continued support for, or recognizes that continued support for district operations through the EPF have allowed districts to implement unique natural resource conservation programs that support the local needs within their counties. Because I know as I've stepped into this role as executive director, I've learned a lot more about how each district is very unique, and they all have very unique programs that are working to address the local needs of their counties. So I wanted to build that in there. The introduction kind of beginning section also includes a description of what the state committee and who the state committee are. So I've updated it to revise the language so that it mirrors more of what it's written in the actual Soil and Water Conservation District law. And I've added Scott Ryan as our NYACD rep because the past version of this, it listed that position as vacant. So his name will be in there. There is also an about the plan section that kind of lays out what the strategic plan includes. And I've added a bullet point that will commit the state committee to revisiting the strategic plan on an annual basis to evaluate our progress in working towards achieving each strategic goal. My hope is that during that evaluation, the state committee will review the accomplishments from the past year within each strategic area and then identify priority focus areas for the upcoming year. I wanted to pause there to get some reaction from the group, folks on the call today, particularly voting members, because that is a new item and would, commit the state committee to an annual review of the plan.
Just a question, would that be in conjunction with just the annual report, or is it unclear of how you sync those up?
Well, I envision it happening either at the very end of the year or perhaps as like the first meeting of a year, like in January, where we kind of reflect on program accomplishments. A lot of times we'll put together kind of a more comprehensive report on what we were able to accomplish through like our Ag Non-Point Source program or CRF. So I feel like that's kind of a good time to reflect on, the more broader strategic plan goals and take a look at what we have been able to achieve in working towards meeting those goals. So if we move forward with something like that, likely 2025 would be our first evaluation meeting. So yeah, absolutely.
I think the evaluation is a great addition. Districts do this through our annual plan of works, and it's incredible to see what we can achieve in a year. And I think this will be really great insight for the state committee to recognize your accomplishments and how you continue to support conservation districts. I also really like how you have incorporated more language coming from a non-ag district. I certainly appreciate that. So I think your additions are point on and amazing work. Good job, Bethany.
Thank you, Caitlin. And yeah, that last point, I guess it did draw a little inspiration from what districts do. I think I was talking with Scott about one of the districts that he works with, and that's a process that they follow. So I thought that was a really neat idea and would keep the strategic plan fresh in everybody's mind and keep us working towards the goals that are in there.
Also gives us an opportunity to maybe even update during that period if there's something that it's not already covering some CLCPA and Bond Act were good examples of them, right? If there's something like that again happens in the next 5 years, gives us an opportunity to revisit.
Right, yeah, right, and update the plan if necessary and appropriate. That's a good point. that is my last slide on this topic. So I will apologize for not being able to stay on task with my timeline, but things are progressing with the strategic plan, and I think are coming together in a good way. And we will continue to work with our partners to move forward with getting these drafts reviewed and out for comment. I will stop sharing. Any other questions on the strategic plan update? Somewhere along the line, I'll just say I realized I was referring to it as the 2024-2029, which seems like 5 years on its face, but really you got to end it at the end of 2028. So I have had to shift my terminology.
All of
I
24 and
apologize.
all of 28. Yeah, I know. It's confuses.
Yeah, I realize that after time.
Next, thank you, Bethany.
Thank you.
Next on our agenda is the advisory. Greg, you got anything?
Thanks, Dale. Just happy Thanksgiving, everyone.
Turn it over to you, Bethany.
Okay, I'll go through the voting members first, then we can go round robin. Do you have any reports for today?
No reports, we're just kind of building off of the report on an executive or voting member reappointments. Just I'm going to be around for until that position's filled, and just want to say that it's difficult as I was thinking through my capacity to continue because of all the amazing work all of you do, all the kind of commitment, and even just sitting through today's meeting, the detail and attention to the work in all levels of the programs that happen through the districts and the committee. It's just impressive. And I've had the benefit of, in my AFT hat, of serving in New York roles and now in a national role, and to be able to see the depth and the commitment of the work here as compared to the national stage. I hope you feel how impressive it is, even beyond just the work that's happening in communities in New York. So I'm glad I can stick around for a little bit longer.
Thank you, Erica.
And happy Thanksgiving.
Darren, do you have any report today?
I don't think so. Just happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
And Dave? I think you're muted.
You're muted, Dave. Yep.
Still muted, unfortunately.
Well, why don't we come back to Dave then?
Alrighty, we'll shift to advisory members. Just a quick double check. We had anybody join from Ag and Markets?
Maybe I can go?
Please.
Okay. I really don't have much. I just, also want to say happy Thanksgiving, and also, just to mention a couple of things happening within the division. I made reference to this in the executive session, but the Wood Products Development Council is something that the Division of Land and Water Resources has taken over the stewardship of for the department, and the reappointment and appointment of members for that is moving through channels downtown, and I'll be working with Jeff Keogh and Tim Sheldon as we're starting to formulate, what that first agenda for the Wood Products Development Council will look like. And certainly, I think in keeping with all of the additional forestry management and reforestation, afforestation, emphasis on carbon sequestration that we have within our conservation programming. There will be a lot of synergies. So we'll be looking to certainly accentuate those synergies and hoping that we, will also have some district feedback into that group in the future. So a little bit of what's happening within the division outside of our wonderful conservation programming.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
What about Cornell Cooperative Extension? I'm realizing that I think we lost a number of people after the executive session. How about Cornell CALS?
Yep, Jared here with the Water Resource Institute, Cornell. Don't have anything to report, but great job, guys. Keep up the good work.
Thank you, Jared. Allison, if you have a quick update, please share.
Still muted, Allison.
Oh, did you? Can I
There
give a
we-
quick update?
Yes,
Yes, please.
Okay. Thank you so much, everybody. It was nice to be in the meeting today. I'm Allison Shothutter-Shawn at Cornell University. And a quick update, I've been working with the USDA Northeast Climate Hub for many years. And this spring, starting in January, we're going to be running a really great program that I'm excited about. We're actually recruiting dairy farmers from New York, Vermont, and Maine, because our partner is the University of Maine, to participate in an 8-week online course on climate impacts, climate science, mitigation, adaptation. And then these farmers will be developing an adaptation plan or mitigation plan for their farm, and we'll be paying them a stipend of $800 if they're willing to share the plan. We're recruiting pairs, and that's why it's called a fellowship. It's really meant to engage with peer-to-peer learning, building collaboration between dairy farmers in different parts of the Northeast and with a paired consultant. So if you know of any consultants from soil and water conservation districts, consultant can be an ag service provider who'd be willing to work with a dairy farmer. That would be wonderful. In the summer, we'll be running field day events in New York. And right now we have 23 applications. Some really great people have already applied, but if you're a dairy farmer on the call, I'd love if you would be interested in participating. There's 3 other of these fellowship programs running, and I think this is really where the rubber hits the road and really helping farmers figure out how to adapt or mitigate to climate. So I'll put my email in the chat. That was my quick update. Thank you so much, Dale.
Thank you. Allison, this is Brian Steinmiller. A question for you. That 23, is that across all the states that you mentioned, or is that here in New York?
Yes, that's across all the states, but we do have many applications from, many of those are from New York State.
Awesome. That's great to hear.
Yeah.
That's very exciting. As we continue to hone our AEM planning tools and protocols for mitigation and adaptation, we'd love to engage with you on what you're learning through this program.
All right, great. I can send the list of who has applied already, in case you know them. And if there are other farms that you think might be interested, that would be super. Thanks, everybody.
Wonderful.
Thank you. Conservation Districts Employees Association.
Have a brief update. Our administrative conference drew a decent crowd on November 6th through 7th. It was held at the DoubleTree Hotel in East Syracuse. And Melissa, I'll send you my report, okay, so you don't have to scramble with everything here. Classes included what to expect from an OSC audit, investments for districts and state aid. Thank you to Ben for presenting that. Getting to know websites and social media, review of open meetings law, civil service, a managers forum, and records retention and grant funding. We had a great slate of topics for all aspects of conservation district staff, from managers to clerks. And from that, we generated a contact in the New York State Civil Service, which is awesome. So we found out that we need to work with the commissioner on things like streamlining job descriptions and the scope of duties. Some districts have been waiting 10 years for an exam to come up, and this is just unacceptable. So ways to get around provisional staff who are at risk because they have not been able to take the exam because the exam has not been offered. Let's see. Offering more frequent exams, and again, grouping job titles into one series. Ryan had reached out for those contacts, and I followed up with our contact, and hopefully we'll get the commissioner's name and we'll be able to start that. So very exciting on the civil service front, hopefully get some relief for conservation districts.
Real quick, Caitlin,
Yes.
that's the Commissioner of Civil Service?
Yes, yes. Save the date for our 2024 Water Quality Symposium, March 12th through 15th at the DoubleTree Hotel in East Syracuse. I want to thank all of our AEAs and state committee staff who have worked to organize courses, volunteered to instruct courses. A lot of work goes into this planning, and we could not do it without our partners and friends at the state committee. Jessica McLaughlin, who is now Jessica Anderson, she just got married. She is coordinating this event, and she's doing a beautiful job. Our upcoming CDEA meeting will be held November 27th and 28th at the Town of Hurley Town Hall. I emailed the agenda and meeting minutes statewide, and we hope that that you all can attend. The meeting on the 27th will be from 12 until 4. The meeting on the 28th will be from 8 a.m. until 12 p.m. So breaking it up over 2 days. And I want to thank Bethany for hearing conservation districts and our need, our request to be included, and for feedback on state committee policies and programs. What you have done since you have taken the executive director is amazing, from garnering feedback on things like CRF Round 8 and the policies that Greg went over, to your foresight with the State Program Advisory Committee. Thank you. On behalf of all 58 conservation districts, we appreciate you, and we value the opportunity to provide feedback.
Those are really kind words, Caitlin. But I can't take all the credit. There's an amazing team that works here and have made my life a heck of a lot easier since March when I took on this role. So the thanks really goes to them. So thank you very much.
You're
It means a
welcome.
lot.
And echoing what Bethany said, thank you to all who serve on the state committee and who keep the districts at the forefront of everything that you do.
Okay, DEC. Department of Health.
Yeah, hi Bethany, this is Paul. A couple of things. One, good luck with civil service. We have our own issues, perennial issues with them also. Secondly, to piggyback on with Cornell, Cornell Columbia University has won a federal grant to look at climate impacts to farms in the New York City watershed. Specifically, they'll be looking at current and future modeling of rainfall patterns and temperature patterns within the watershed, basically all west of Hudson, so mostly Delaware County, and see what kind of impacts it has on the best management practices that are currently in use, toward developing a database. And this is work that's going on nationally, really, and probably ties in with what Cornell's doing, but to see how conservation projects are holding up given shifting weather patterns. Morgan and I got to meet two of the principal investigators and two very interesting people, a lot of experience. There was one fellow who primarily has done all kinds of different jobs throughout the United States, both sort of on the field and also working in Washington. The other person was, she was really has a lot of international experience, which I had a chance to talk to her a little bit more, but everywhere from Bangladesh to South America to all over the place. And I think she'll be really good at working with people. Of course, this is not going to work unless we can get buy-in. They can get buy-in from farmers down there, and I think in general, from everything I've heard on the grapevine and what I read, farmers are kind of skeptical of this sort of research, thinking that the idea is to take all the cows away and this and that or whatever, and I think a lot of that's national media. But anyhow, I wish them luck in this project and should be able to get some really good data out of it. And in the interest of conservation of time, that's all I have for today.
Conservation of time. That was good.
Thank you, Paul. I believe our rep from the Department of State had to jump off, but she wanted to make everybody aware that they are expecting the local waterfront revitalization program grants to be announced in the next few weeks. SUNY ESF. I don't think we have anybody on. Just another double check, NRCS. Going back, I think, Dave, maybe are you unmuted now? Do you have anything to share with the group?
I don't know if I am or not, am I?
Yes, you are.
Hey, all right. I just want to say it's been an honor to serve on this committee for the last 16, 17 years. And I thank everybody for the help and the friendship we've had. And we'll see you later. See you next month.
Thank you, Dave.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to state committee staff updates. We can start going around the room here. Do you have anything to share, Ben?
Skippy Tim. What with me?
I was going to start you and come this way.
Oh, okay. Regional report, it's kind of business as usual, a lot of meetings, district law, trainings, that sort of thing. A few grant closeouts starting anyway for round 24. State aid end of things, November 1st was the deadline to submit the Part B reports. They were all in on time, so I'll start reviewing those in the next week or so, and then the payments will go out in December as they normally do. Just make sure everybody's continuing to check off your performance measures by the end of the year to make sure those are all accounted for. And as we have been saying, we're the performance measures / state aid survey is ready to go out. That will be out probably by the end of the day, maybe tomorrow morning. And please fill that out, pass it along to your board members, staff, whoever you think should be filling it out, so we can get as many responses as possible on that. But that's it.
Thanks, Ben.
Okay, I just want to share a couple small successes that the New York State Erosion and Sediment Control Certificate Program had. The steering committee got together and put together a review book of sample questions for people that are signing up for the review course to help them prepare for the exam. And then we deployed that at a review course last week, which was one of our biggest, our most attended courses so far, 25 students. And then 14 of them took the exam the following day. So we're pretty excited about that success. That's all I have.
Thanks, Tim. And just a special announcement, today is Tim's birthday.
We've got an old donut over here.
Thank you very much. So I will go, I shared, I guess, my update that I wanted to share about the non-point source feedback session early. So the other announcement that I have to share with the state committee is that Governor Hochul has vetoed the Senate Bill S1725-A, Assembly Bill 4601, that would have categorized Class C water stream or waterways as streams. So that bill has been vetoed. I know we were waiting on it, or waiting on that decision. That's all I have. Do you have anything further?
No, I'm good.
All right, Melissa?
I'm good, thank you, nothing to report.
Thank you. PJ?
Yeah, kind of just to echo what Ben said, there's been, the plans of work, annual plans of work came in. All of them look really good in my region. I'm sure across the state, they look really good. Had a few board meetings, some board trainings, a lot of closeouts coming in. So that's great to see. And as Tim said, the New York State Erosion and Sediment Control Certificate Program was a real success. 25 students there in the review course. So that was great. I was certainly happy to see that and happy to help out instructing that class. And then just looking forward to the Employees Association meeting next week. I'm going to hopefully be able to call in. So other than that, that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Tyler?
I'm all set, thanks.
Thank you. Scott?
Just to say that the CREP annual progress report is due in December, the end of December. So I'll be relying on Tyler to provide me with a bunch of implementation or contracting data for those CREP eligible watersheds. And then the whole report will go out by the end, December 30th. It probably won't be very different than other reports. So hopefully no surprises there. And then also, I think like Ben and PJ said, it's been a lot of time these past couple of weeks reviewing annual plans of work by districts. And I'll just say that in doing so, it's always amazing the breadth of things that districts get done in a year. And it's so much more than it's obviously the programming that the committee provides is part of that. But as you flip through the pages, you realize how they're engaged in almost every facet of what you'd expect. And, you know, from public relations to their own housekeeping in terms of running an office and what that takes and being a local government. And a lot of work goes into those annual plan of works, and I just appreciated any districts on the line. I think it was a job well done, and you know, keep up the good work, I guess. Thanks.
Thank you. Ryan?
Yeah, thanks. I'll build a little bit off of what Caitlin was discussing with the admin conference. Phenomenal slate of instructors and presenters. I was able to go both half days and sit down as many classes as possible. I got a lot out of it. And to build off of the civil service discussion, three gentlemen from the New York State Civil Service presented. They did about 15 minutes of presentation and an hour and a half of question and answers. It was great. And the thing that I got out of it, other than the fact that every county is a little bit different and you have to work locally with HR and civil service rep in your county, they provided a pathway for every question that was out there. So there is a solution to either get tests, to move people from competitive to non-competitive, to even build new tests. I know there's been committees and committees through the years trying to get new test material out there. We talked about it a little bit when we were there. They need certain experts to kind of come forward, help build certain questions to make these tests more applicable and to have them more often. I do have contact information for some of the reps there. They asked that we reach out to the general admin, but I got a feedback from one of the guys that was there. The biggest thing on the list is outdated tests for counties. So there was a 3-year rule. It's not really a statute or a policy, but if they've requested a test over 3 years ago, they're allowed to move an employee from competitive to non-competitive. And that's to really save the person that's in that position from kind of the pressure of sitting in a job for 5, 7, 8 years and not having a test being taken and have it swept out from underneath you if all of a sudden they open up an exam. So that's an important part. I've got a local case study. Clinton County has already pursued it and gotten permission from their board and support from their county ledge that serves on the board to get some answers from that. Their local civil service was very open to helping with that, and they're going to kind of pursue that, not just for the person in the job, but for the title itself. So if that title changes through the years, or if the people change through the years, there should be a pathway for folks to assimilate into that job, permanent, not provisional, for an unending amount of time. So we've made some headway, at least locally. I'm going to try to get that information out to others. I know Caitlin, your county is facing the same thing. It was good to have some feedback from that. We did make some progress. Otherwise, in the North Country, I've got a lot of AEM 17 projects closing out. I was pushing districts that have finished projects to try to get those closeouts in. There's a mad rush at the end of the year to finish all the technical assistance funding, get all the reports in. So if projects have come to a close, I've encouraged folks to kind of turn that in so we can get the gears running on that and then pivot into round 18. So half a dozen counties have pursued that already, which is great. It's easing some of the pressure on Greg to review 50 plus counties worth of material. So I'm trying to keep moving on that. Even got to see a few of these projects in the field, which is nice too. So a lot of good stuff going on up there. Otherwise, a lot of conversations with boards on upcoming funding, some of the changes with CRF, the climate smart commodities, future bond acts, just making sure people are aware of the stuff that's kind of coming forward, having these discussions so that's not a surprise when it kind of comes down the line, and just making people sort of familiar with that. Board members are always changing around the North Country, so I want to make sure folks are just up to date on the lingo, where the funding's coming from, and how we're going to move forward together. So I'll keep it at that. Thank you.
Ryan,
Sure.
on that Clinton County test case, so there has to be a request that goes into state civil service to transition, or is it automatic? It's not automatic, is what I'm hearing you say.
It's to change from competitive to non-competitive is not automatic. No one's going to do that for you. You have to request that from local civil service. But if you can show that local civil service, right? So if you can show that you've had a person or a title open, someone in that position for more than 3 years, you can push to have them automatically become permanent through that process with local civil service. And they're willing to help because civil service has changed through the years. It used to be, a backlog of 20, 25 people on a list that were eligible. Now you're down to, no one's applying to jobs anymore, so they don't want to make it onerous. Yeah, right.
Yeah, and it is helpful to them in their own workload.
That's right.
And certainly that of the district office.
Yep. So it was good to get contacts at New York State, and also the fact that we've got some headway at a local county and showing some progress. So to that end, reach out to me. I'm happy to help you get in touch with those folks if you have those issues, and we can kind of work together on it. So thanks.
Thank you. Tim Sheldon.
Well, Brian mentioned Little Products Development Council, so otherwise, no.
I'm sorry. Okay.
A lot of the same concepts that have already been mentioned are relevant to my region as well. This time of year, districts out my way are focused on, as Brian said, cleaning up those AIM 17 projects. I get a little nervous this time of year when I start to see changes in the November, December timeframe, but as all things that districts do, things are fluid, and confident that those projects will be completed by the end of the calendar year. Also cleaning up some leftover performance measures in a number of my counties, some district law trainings recently completed, and a few more scheduled for this month as well. Round 29 plans of work continue to slowly trickle in for review and approval. Everybody's busy. There's no downtime at any point during the year, given the funding that we've been experiencing, and hopefully it'll continue to be the case. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
Thank you. Brendan Jordan, I think I might have missed you at roll call. Do you have anything to share with the group today?
No, nothing at this time. Thank you, Bethany.
Thank you. Okay, I think that wraps up all of state committee staff that are in person and on the line. So I just want to give an opportunity for any conservation district who is still with us on the line. If you have anything to report or share with the state committee, please feel free to come off of mute and do so. Hearing none, I also want to give any members of the public that may be on the line an opportunity. If there are any updates, please feel free to share. Okay, so that concludes that portion of the agenda. Dale?
Thank you, everyone. Next meeting date, December 19th. Voting members, what do you think?
Looks good for me, Dale.
Okay. Darren?
I think it looks good for me, Dale.
Great. Dave?
Good to me so far.
Okay, great. December 19th. Well, hopefully we can get this Syracuse thing working a little better, but it wasn't all that bad today. But we'll work out exact location a little bit later.
Yeah, and just real quick, a little preview of the meeting in December. Already have some agenda topics drafted up. Specifically, the Soil and Water Conservation District's annual plans of work will be listed off and will need approval by the state committee. So we're hoping to do that in December. Also for voting members, we will be conducting ethics training that needs to be done, I think, every other year. So that is something we'll do at the end of the meeting so folks can leave if they so choose. But those are a couple items that I wanted to put out there that will be on the agenda for December.
Great, thank you much. That's what we need, more training.
Yes.
Who's gonna give this training, Bethany?
I think Mike recommended you to do it.
Oh, yeah. All right.
Well, everyone have a very good Thanksgiving, and our meeting is.
Happy Thanksgiving. Thank you so much.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
In the holiday season.
Yeah, nothing says